Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC on ABC 5, Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria, and this is going to be my full card predictions. We're going to go through every single fight on the card. I'm going to give you a quick breakdown and prediction, and this is a really solid fight night card. This is what UFC fight night cards are supposed to be. There's been a lot of terrible Apex cards. This isn't at the Apex. This is in Florida in front of a live crowd. And this is a really solid lineup for this UFC ABC 5 because they're on ABC. It's going to be an early start time for this card. But before I get into my picks, Tapology, UFC.com, and ESPN all have different bout orders. So I'm just going to go off the UFC's official website, starting off with the first fight of the night, Cody Brundage versus Sedriques Dumas. This is a fight that honestly could go either way. This is a fight that should be exciting while it lasts. Cody Brundage is 8-4, 29 years old, 6 foot with a 72-inch reach. Dumas is 7-1, 27 years old, 6'2", with a 79-inch reach, so a 7-inch reach advantage for Dumas. Cody Brundage likes to just kind of rush forward, throw combinations, occasionally mix in offensive wrestling. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. His last fight, he fought Rodolfo Vieira. Started out really good, almost finished Vieira in the first round, but then started to fade, and then eventually Vieira was able to get a submission in the second round. Fight before that, he got finished by Mikhail Oshechek. Started off decent in that fight as well, but then eventually got finished. It was still in the first round. For Dumas, he came off of Dana White's Contender Series. He made his UFC debut against Josh Emmett, and honestly, he got exposed in that fight. He looked good early, but then he started to fade, and then eventually he gets finished via a guillotine in the second round. Just started to fade and wasn't able to recover after that. When I look at this fight, I see somebody in this fight is definitely getting a finish, because if you look at Cody Brundage, 7 of his 8 wins are by finish, and 5 of those 7 wins are in the first round. For Dumas, 6 of his 7 wins are via finish, and 4 of those are in the first round. So I am going to go Sedriques Dumas via first round TKO. I just think he's going to use that 7-inch reach advantage. I think Cody Brundage kind of rushes in, throwing combinations, getting a little bit sloppy. And I think Dumas has a lot to prove. If he loses this fight, he drops 2 in a row coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. His hype is basically over. He had hype going into that fight against Josh Emmett. And I just think he has to win this fight. And I think he's a little bit better striker. I think Brundage is a little bit more durable, has a little bit more offensive wrestling. But Dumas has decent defensive wrestling when he's not exhausted. So I think this fight is going to end in the first round, and I think Dumas is going to catch him with like a straight right hand, and he's going to be chopping the legs, and you're going to see Brundage kind of sloppily coming in with combinations. And Brundage is pretty fast, but I just think he's going to get clipped by Dumas and get finished in the first round. Moving on to the next fight, we have Tatsuro Taira versus Kleydson Rodrigues. This is a very interesting fight between 2 young prospects in the flyweight division. You have Taira, who is 23 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. You have Rodrigues, who's 27 years old, 5'6", with a 67-inch reach. So a 3-inch reach advantage for Taira. But we know what Taira wants to do. He wants to come in, get your back, take you down, get your back, and then submit you. That's what he's wanted to do in every single fight. He is undefeated. He's 13-0. And he's just looked so impressive in the division. He's coming off a win over Jesus Aguilar. He won via triangle. The fight before that, he submitted CJ Vergara. The fight before that, he had a decision win. But the majority of his wins come via submission. He's always looking for the submission. Of his 10 finishes, he has 7 wins by submission. That is craziness. And he has 6 first-round submission wins. Taira literally wants to come in, take you down. He has decent striking. Kleydson Rodrigues is 1-1 in the UFC. He's never lost via submission. He has decent power. He has good combinations, but he likes to spin. And I think his spinning techniques are going to get him in trouble in this fight. I think he's going to make a mistake in this fight. I think he's going to give up his back. Taira is really good in transitions. He'll duck under a punch. Next thing you know, he's got your back. And I think once he gets Rodrigues' back, I think he will be able to find that submission. I think he will be able to finish him. You look at Rodrigues, he's coming off a win over Shannon Ross. Not the greatest of level of competition, and Shannon Ross had him in some bad positions in that fight, even though Rodrigues clearly won. And then the fight before that, he lost a split decision to CJ Vergara, who Taira has a win over. I just think he's going to make a mistake in the first round. He's going to give up his back, And Taira is just too good once he gets on your back, and he'll transition to a million different submissions. He don't need to get the rear naked choke because all of a sudden he'll transition to a triangle, he'll transition to an armbar. His submissions are so fluid, his BJJ is so good. He's such an interesting contender in the flyweight division, and I think he gets it done via first round submission. I'm going to say first round rear naked choke. Moving up on the card, Jamall Emmers versus Jack Jenkins. This is going to be a very interesting fight as well, and I think this is going to be a great fight. You have Jamall Emmers, who's 33 years old, 5'10", 74-inch reach. You have Jenkins, who's 30 years old, 5'7", and a 68-inch reach. So a massive 6-inch reach advantage for Emmers, and a 3-inch height advantage for Emmers as well. When I look at both these guys, I look at their most recent records. You have Emmers, who's kind of trading wins and losses. He beat the undefeated Russian prospect in his last fight. He lost to Pat Sabatini, but Pat Sabatini just looked incredible in his last fight. Lost via heel hook. And then you go back to his last loss before that, a split decision loss to Giga Chikadze. And he could have very well won that fight. That was a close fight. And Emmers is pretty good on the feet, but he also has very good grappling as well. Jack Jenkins coming off the Dana White's Contender Series where he looked really good. Got a KO in Dana White's Contender Series and fought Don Shainis in his last fight. Won via decision. It was a gritty fight. He was just chopping the legs nonstop, just brutalizing the lead legs of Don Shainis. And I think this is going to be a great fight. I'm going to go Jamall Emmers via decision. I'm going to say 29-28 decision. I mean, Emmers just has really fast kicks. He has good grappling on top of that. And he also has a very good gas tank. And he also likes to wear on his opponent's body. He uses a lot of body shots. And I think Jenkins, he's going to be feeling that reach disadvantage. And he's going to have a height disadvantage. And he doesn't have the greatest grappling. Even Don Shainis was able to get him down and control him a little bit. I know he was able to reverse him. But I just think you look at Emmers, I think he's just more well-rounded, and I think he has a reach advantage, and I think he has great kicks, and I think, you have Jenkins, who takes a lot of shots, even against lower-level competition. Not that Jamall Emmers is the elite of the elite, and I'm going Jamall Emmers via decision. I think he gets it done on the feet. Moving up on the card, Trevor Peek versus Chepe Mariscal. This is an interesting fight. This is a short notice fight. I think this will be an absolute crazy war. Trevor Peek, undefeated, 8-0, 28 years old, 5'9", with a 70-inch reach. You have Mariscal, who's 13-6, 30 years old, 5'6", with a 69.5-inch reach. So a 3-inch height advantage for Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek is an absolute savage. Had that crazy war 3 months ago with Eric Gonzalez. Both guys hurting each other multiple times. Trevor Peek just absorbing the damage and continuing to come forward and throw combinations. You have Mariscal, who's coming over from LFA. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. He's on a 3-fight stoppage streak as well, but not against the best competition. 6-4, 12-8, and 18-9. But I went back and watched some of his LFA fights. He's an absolute savage too. And he has some great leg kicks. He'll move forward. He's super aggressive. And he had a close fight with Steve Garcia where there was an early stoppage. It was a bad referee decision. And look, Steve Garcia is doing well in the UFC. And I was thinking about how we've seen a lot of short notice guys come into the UFC recently from LFA. They're ready to go. They step in. And then all of a sudden they win. And everyone's picking the other guy. And the short notice guy wins. Now he's stepping in on roughly a week's notice. But I am going Chepe Mariscal. I think he gets it done. Trevor Peek, you look at his last 2 fights. Eric Gonzalez almost got finished in that fight. Malik Lewis on Dana White's Contender Series almost got finished in that fight as well, but came back and got the finish. Eventually that damage is going to catch up to him. And Mariscal has some great power, has some great kicks, and is super aggressive and has a killer instinct. And he also has pretty good cardio as well. And he has, once he hurts you, he will nonstop look for that finish. And I think in this fight, he's going to clip Trevor Peek in the first round. I think both of them are going to get hurt. I could see either one of them winning this fight in the first round. But I think Mariscal is just going to have the more technical striking. We've seen Trevor Peek throwing those crazy, wild, like back fists and stuff. And he's sprinting forward with his chin straight up in the air. I think Chepe is going to make the most of his UFC debut on short notice. And I think he's going to get a first round KO and send Trevor Peek back to watching the Daytona 500. Moving up on the card, Zhalgas Zhumagulov versus Joshua Van. This is another short notice fight. Zhumagulov was supposed to fight last week. His opponent pulled out. Zhumagulov's been waiting to show off that bowl cut. His opponents keep pulling out, and now he's fighting Joshua Van. And This is an interesting fight because it's just short notice, and Zhalgas is like on a 3-fight losing streak, and it's like seems like everything's against him, and now I feel like he's just bound to lose against a guy making his UFC debut. But you look at Zhalgas, he's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's 14-8, 34 years old, 5'4" with a 66.5-inch reach. You have Joshua Van, who's 7-1, 21 years old, 5'5", and we don't even have a reach for him. So we don't even know, but he's unbelievable. He's 13 years younger than Zhalgas. I went and watched some footage of him. He's an okay fighter. He's got some good footwork. He has some decent takedown defense, but against low level, he has a decent jab, and he has 100% wins by stoppage. But I think Zhalgas going to be too much for him. Zhalgas super well-rounded. And you look at his losses. The Charles Johnson fight, split decision, could have easily won. The Jeff Molina fight, split decision, could have easily won. The only fight in the last 3 fights that he lost cleanly was against Manel Kape, where he got finished. So he's fighting really good competition. He's super well-rounded. He's taking Joshua Van on short notice. I think Van has a chance. I feel like the writing is on the wall. Somehow Zhalgas going to get KO'd in this fight, but I'm going Zhalgas via decision. I think he gets it done in this fight. I just think he's too well-rounded, and I think he's going to be able to mix in his striking, mix in his wrestling against a short-notice guy, and I think he's going to be able to get it done. Moving up on the card, Tabatha Ricci versus Jillian Robertson. Tabatha Ricci, 8-1, 28 years old, 5'1" with a 62-inch reach. Jillian Robertson, 12-7, 28 years old, 5'5" with a 63-inch reach. So a 4-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage for Robertson. We know what this fight is. We know what this fight is. Robertson just wants to take her down, control her on the ground, and look for a submission. I mean, she's always looking for submissions every single fight, whether she pulls guard or she somehow gets you to the ground. She's looking for a submission. She won her fight via armbar in the last fight against Pereira Rodrigues. Before that, she beat Maria Agapova via rear naked choke, and a lot of people were counting her out. Her last loss was to J.J. Aldridge, not the best competition. You look at Tabatha Ricci, she's on a 3-fight winning streak. She submitted Jessica Penne. She beat Polyana Viana via decision, and she beat Maria Oliveira via decision. Honestly, I was throwing this one back and forth because Tabatha Ricci's very athletic, has decent striking, has decent grappling, but I feel like Robertson is just so durable and just always finds a way to get you to the ground. She has terrible striking, but I don't think Ricci has like the elite of the elite striking by any means. So I am going to go with Jillian Robertson, 2nd round submission. I think she's going to find a way to get it to the ground. If Ricci gets a little bit over aggressive and, maybe slips off a combination and she ends up on the ground, I think Robertson will pull guard if she has to. She will find a way to get to the ground. And I think she's going to find a submission, whether it's off her back or whether she's able to get Ricci's back. I think she will find a submission. For my official prediction, I'll say 2nd round armbar for Jillian Robertson. Moving up on the card, Mateusz Rebecki versus Loic Razabov. This is an interesting fight. I think this should be a good fight while it lasts as well. There's a lot of good matchups on this card, especially when you start looking at the previous fight footage. And this fight is going to be very interesting. You have Rebecki, who's 14 of 17 wins by finish. He hasn't lost since 2014. And then you have Razabov, who's very fast, has good power. He's coming in on a 2-fight winning streak. He's only been in the UFC for 1 fight, but he looks super impressive in his last fight. You have Rebecki is 17-1, 30 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. And you have Razabov, who's 32 years old, 5'11" with a 68-inch reach. So a 4-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage for Razabov. This is a tough fight to pick, to be honest. But I think Rebecki's just a little bit more technical on the feet. I think he has good combinations and pace. And I think, honestly, both guys are very similar in the way they fight. Both guys are constantly looking for combinations. Both guys are rushing forward. Both guys occasionally mix in the grappling. I just think whoever has the better gas tank wins this fight, and I think Rebecki's going to have the better gas tank, and I think he's going to use his striking more effectively. I'm going Mateusz Rebecki via decision in this fight. Moving up on the card, we have Randy Brown versus Wellington Turman, a welterweight matchup. This is a fight that, honestly, I thought it was a pretty easy fight to pick. I'm going Randy Brown via decision. Randy Brown, I just think he's more overall. He's a better fighter overall. I think he has better striking. And you look at their, statistics, or you look at their tail of the tape, 32 years old, 6'3", with a 78-inch reach for Randy Brown. For Turman, 26 years old, 6 foot tall with a 72-inch reach. So a 3-inch height advantage and a 6-inch reach advantage for Randy Brown. Randy Brown's coming off that loss to Jack Della Maddalena. He didn't look completely horrible in that fight. He was landing some shots, just Jack Della Maddalena was able to crowd him, hurt him, and then find the submission. Wellington Turman's coming off a loss against Andre Petroski, and he was getting outstruck by Andre Petroski in a lot of that fight. And I know there was the threat of the takedown, but I just think Randy Brown's going to be too good on the feet. And I just think Randy Brown is the rangier fighter. He's a taller fighter. He has more reach. And he has decent takedown defense. I think Turman's going to be looking to grapple. And I think ultimately Randy Brown's just going to outstrike him, pump the jab, use his kicks, stay at range. And I'm picking Randy Brown via decision. Moving up on the card, we have Neil Magny versus Philip Rowe. Neil Magny's been around forever, been in the UFC forever. He's 35 years old, 6'3", with an 80-inch reach. You have Philip Rowe, who is 32 years old, 6'3", with an 80.5-inch reach. So very similar height and reach for both these guys. You know, you look at their recent fights. Neil Magny lost to Gilbert Burns. Before that, he beat Daniel Rodrigues. Before that, he lost to Shavkat Rakhmonov. You look at Philip Rowe. He's on a 3-fight winning streak against Nico Price. Absolute war, gets a finish. I believe it was in the 3rd round. Before that, against Jason Witt, gets a KO finish. And before that, against Orion Kosei, KO'd him as well. And that was a crazy war as well. And I think that was in the 3rd round as well. He finished him. But when I look at this fight and I look back at Philip Rowe, he's getting taken down by everyone. He got taken down by Jason Witt. He was getting taken down by Orion Kosei and getting out-grappled. Neil Magny is a grinder. And I think Neil Magny will find a way to get this to the ground. I think he'll be able to just out-grapple him. I don't know if he'll be able to finish him. I don't think he'll be able to finish him. So I'm going Neil Magny via decision. I just think he's going to use his grappling, grind him up against the fence, take him down, beat him up on the ground. But there is going to come a point where Neil Magny is starting to fall off a cliff. I just don't think it's right now. You know, he's losing to Gilbert Burns and Shavkat Rakhmonov. That's amazing competition. So I do not think that Philip Rowe, he has decent power, but it's not crazy like one-punch KO power. And I just think that Neil Magny is going to be able to outgrind him to a decision. I'm going Neil Magny via decision. Moving up on the card, this is the first fight on the main card. We have Brendan Allen versus Bruno Silva in the middleweight division. Brendan Allen, 27 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach. You have Bruno Silva, who's 33 years old, 6 foot, with a 74-inch reach. So a 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage for Brendan Allen. This is a matchup where it's like, if this stays standing, Bruno Silva can get the job done, but is it going to stay standing? And Allen's decent on the feet. He's not horrible on the feet. He's coming in this fight on a 4-fight winning streak, beat Andre Muniz in his last fight, submitted him in the 3rd round, submitted Krzysztof Jotko in the fight before that, which is a decent win, beat Jacob Malkoun in the fight before that, which isn't the greatest win, and then submitted Sam Alvey to begin his win streak. And that was only a year and a half ago. So he's had 4 fights in a year and a half. You look at Bruno Silva, he won his last fight against Brad Tavares, brutally KO'd him. But before that, he got hurt badly by Gerald Meerschaert and submitted via guillotine. And before that, he lost to Alex Pereira, as Alex Pereira is starting to make his ascent to the middleweight title. So not a horrible loss to have, you know, against Alex Pereira, who went on to become champion. But when I look at this matchup, I see a massive grappling disadvantage for Bruno Silva. And Bruno Silva has decent wrestling. He even used it against Alex Pereira, but he gets too sloppy on the feet, and I see him walking right into a double leg takedown against Brendan Allen. And I think once Brendan Allen gets him down, I think he'll be able to find that submission. I think in the first round, you're going to see Brendan Allen be a little bit careful, be weary of the power of Silva. But I think after that first round, I think midway through that first round, I think Brendan Allen will find a takedown. As Silva starts to get comfortable and a little bit overconfident, I think Allen will find a takedown, maybe beat him up a little bit, start working towards the submission, but the round ends. And I think in the second round, a minute, 2 minutes in, Brendan Allen gets a takedown, ends up submitting him on the ground. I'm going to say Brendan Allen via second round. I'm going to say late second round rear naked choke for Brendan Allen. I think he gets the job done. Moving up on the card, David Onama versus Gabriel Santos. David Onama, this is his first fight back since that loss to Nate Landwehr. And he doesn't have his coach anymore. James Krause is gone. I wonder what's going on with that situation. But that fight against Nate Landwehr was an absolute war. I'm glad he took 9 months off since then. David Onama's 29 years old, 5'11", with a 74-inch reach. You have Gabriel Santos, who's 26 years old, 5'9", with a 71.5-inch reach. So a slight 2.5 reach advantage for Onama, and also a 2-inch height advantage for Onama. This is going to be a good fight. I mean, you look at Onama, had that crazy fight against Nate Landwehr. The fight before that, he got a submission win over Garrett Armfield. But you look at Gabriel Santos, his last fight, he stepped in on short notice against Laron Murphy. And you could make the argument that he won that fight. He lost via split decision, but he came in on short notice, everyone counting him out against Laron Murphy, and he almost got it done. The fight before that was in LFA. He had some decent performances here, finishing a lot of his opponents. And I just think this fight's going to be an all-out war. Onama has super fast hands, has good power, and is well-rounded too. He has some grappling, but the gas tank is a little bit of an issue. The Nate Landwehr fight, got overconfident with a finish, gassed himself out, got destroyed in the second round. Looks like it was going to be stopped. Had a second win in the third round, but still lost the third round to Nate Landwehr. But Nate Landwehr proved against Dan Ige he's better than a lot of people were giving him credit for. Santos has really good kicks, has great grappling. He was mixing in the grappling against Laron Murphy, had his back multiple times, and can go a hard 3 rounds. So this is a fight that, honestly, I think David Onama, if he wants to win, he has to get a finish. And I just don't think he's going to be able to finish Gabriel Santos. So for my official prediction, I'm going Gabriel Santos via decision. I just think he's going to mix in the grappling. I think his striking is good enough to hang with Onama on the feet. Maybe he gets rocked early, but I still think he's going to mix in that grappling. He'll find those takedowns. I think Onama's very well-rounded, but I just don't think the gas tank's going to hold up. I think you maybe have a first round where Onama wins, lands some good kicks, lands with his hands, but I think maybe, towards that second round, he's going to start to slow down a bit. Gabriel Santos is going to start landing some kicks of his own. Then he's going to find a takedown, and maybe Onama gets back to his feet, and then there's a little bit of control time against the fence, and then he gets him down again. And then I think the third round, Onama is going to clearly lose. So I'm going to go 29-28 for Gabriel Santos in this fight. Moving up on the card, Justin Tafa versus Austen Lane, a heavyweight matchup on the main card. Honestly, this is a tough fight to pick. Either one of these guys could get a brutal KO. You look at Justin Tafa, he's coming off that KO over the GOAT Parker Porter. Before that, he has a KO over Harry Hunsucker. He's 29 years old, 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach. You have Austen Lane, who's 35 years old, 6'6", with an 80-inch reach. So a 6-inch height advantage and a 6-inch reach advantage for Austen Lane. And Austen Lane's coming off of Dana White's Contender Series. Got a KO. I think it was in the first round. It might have been in the second round. Got a KO in that fight. He is massive. He is a huge heavyweight, but he's not like thick. He's kind of skinny because he's so tall. He's 6'6". And he's 35 years old, which makes me very hesitant. But you look at Tafa, all his wins are via KO, but he was also finished by Yorgan De Castro, which isn't a very good fighter by any means. Has huge power, but I think he's a little bit slower than Austen Lane. You look at Austen Lane, he's fast. He has very good kicks. He gets a little bit sloppy on the feet. He doesn't have the best grappling by any means, but I've seen very limited footage of him. And when I look at this fight, I think this fight definitely ends in a KO. I'm going Austen Lane second round KO. I think Austen Lane's going to know that Justin Tafa has unbelievable power. I mean, that walk-off KO over against Parker Porter was insane. And I think Austen Lane's going to use his kicks. He's going to be rangy. He has a 6-inch reach advantage. And I think Justin Tafa slows down significantly after the first round. I mean, he lost to Jarrett Vandera. I mean, need I say more? He lost to Carlos Felipe. Need I say more? I know Austen Lane's up there in age, but 35 years old at heavyweight is like 28 years old elsewhere in another division. So I think he's big. I think he's tall. I think he has reach. And I think all he has to do is avoid the KO shot from Justin Tafa in the first round. And I think he'll be able to get the job done. I think he clips him. I think Justin Tafa is going to slow down in that second round. And I think Austen Lane catches him with a head kick in the second round, follows him to the ground and pound TKO finish for Austen Lane in the second round. Moving on to the co-main event. Why is this ruining the card? This is ruining the card. Amanda Ribas versus Maycee Barber. I hate this fight. I absolutely hate this fight. Why is this a co-main event? Why is Maycee Barber in a co-main event? But if you look at Ribas, she's 29 years old, 5'3", with a 66-inch reach. You look at Barber, 25 years old, 5'5", with a 65-inch reach. So very similar height and reach, 2-inch height advantage for Maycee Barber. When I look at this matchup, I see Maycee Barber, who's on a 4-fight winning streak, but really It shouldn't be, because she got robbery wins over Andrea Lee. I thought she lost 30-27, clear as day, got outstruck, got outgrappled, somehow gets gifted the decision in that fight. She beat Jessica Eye, but Jessica Eye's a dead body at that point. That was 11 months ago. I think Jessica Eye retired after that. She has a win over Montana De La Rosa. That means absolutely nothing. And she has a split decision robbery win over Miranda Maverick. Should have lost that fight as well. And also, she has a loss to Roxanne Modafferi. And she made all types of excuses after that. And Roxanne Modafferi, let's just say, she's not the elite of the elite in the women's division. I'm going Amanda Ribas via decision. I think Maycee Barber's going to come out, try to grind on her, try to take her down, try to push her up against the fence. But Amanda Ribas has good striking. It's not the greatest, it's not the fastest, but I think she has better striking than Maycee Barber. And I think she has very good grappling in BJJ. And I could see her out grappling Maycee Barber in this fight. Maycee Barber's just going to try to push her up against the fence, control her against the fence, get some takedowns. But I think Ribas can find some sweeps on the ground. I think she can find some takedowns of her own. And I see her winning this fight. I see her winning it pretty handedly. But honestly, don't be shocked if Ribas wins 30-27 and Maycee Barber somehow gets a decision win, which would be absolutely appalling. But I just think Ribas better almost everywhere. I do worry about the cardio a little bit. Her losses is a split decision to Caitlin Chukagian, and she also got KO'd by Marina Rodrigues. But at that point, Marina Rodrigues was looking like a future champion. So I'm going Amanda Ribas via decision. I think it's going to be a close fight. But I think Ribas gets it done with her striking and mixes in her grappling well, gets some control time, and uses her jiu-jitsu and just out-grapples Maycee Barber on the ground. 29-28 decision win for Amanda Ribas. Moving on to the main event, and I will be doing a full breakdown and prediction video solely for the main event. It will be a dedicated video for the main event. As soon as that's done, it will be linked down in the description. But we have Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria. What an amazing matchup. You have Josh Emmett, who's ranked number 5, Ilia Topuria, who's ranked number 9 in the UFC featherweight division. And this is a massive fight. This could have title implications on the line. If Ilia Topuria wins, he's next in line, close, after the winner of Volkanovski versus Yair Rodrigues. I think Topuria probably is going to be the number 1 contender if he beats Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett, he's been around forever. He's 18-3, only ever lost 3 fights, but we'll talk about that in a second. He's 38 years old, 5'6", with a 70-inch reach. You have Ilia Topuria, who's undefeated, 13-0, 26 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach. So everything's pretty comparable. Outside of the massive glaring youth advantage for Ilia Topuria, 12 years younger. And, you know, Josh Emmett's coming off that loss to Yair Rodrigues where he just, I mean, the speed of Yair in comparison to Josh Emmett was unbelievable. Just getting chewed up with kicks. He landed some good shots on Yair, but then he eventually gets triangle choked after he got hurt. And that was an interim title fight that I honestly thought Josh Emmett, even though technically he deserved it, you look at the fights before that, I thought he lost to Calvin Kattar. He got a split decision win. The fight before that, I thought he lost to Dan Ige, even though it was very, very close. And I think he got hurt by Dan Ige in that fight. And he got outstruck by Dan Ige. And don't get me wrong, I think these are good fighters. But I just think you look at Josh Emmett at 38 years old, coming off an absolute beatdown from Yair Rodrigues. I don't think Josh Emmett's going to make it back to a title. And Josh Emmett's so one-dimensional. All he does is use that right hand. He squats down, loads up on the right hand, and looks to just knock everyone out. And not that he can't knock out Ilia Topuria, but Ilia Topuria is just so fast, so well-rounded. I talked about this in the lead-up to the Bryce Mitchell fight. People, for some reason, even Joe Rogan thinks Ilia Topuria is just a striker. Ilia Topuria is primarily a grappler who's fell in love with his hands in the UFC. Topuria has 12 of his 13 wins by finish, and 8 of those 13 wins are via submission. And he went out there in his last fight, and I was super confident in that pick. He went out there and bodied Bryce Mitchell, beat him up in the first round with his hands badly, and then in the second round just ragdolled him after he hurt him, and then was able to find an arm triangle in that second round. Before that, he had a close fight with Jai Herbert where he was hurt badly, but then he found the KO, brutally KO'd him with the right hand. And before that, he KO'd Ryan Hall. I remember Joe Rogan acting like Ryan Hall was going to definitely submit him when he's just rolling around on the ground. Eventually, Ilia Topuria KO'd him with ground and pound. Embarrassing performance. And he also has a KO win over Damon Jackson in his hairline. And when I look at this matchup, I just think Topuria is younger, faster, more well-rounded. And Josh Emmett, there's only one weapon to worry about. It's that massive right hand. And he squats down and throws the right hand. And of course, can Topuria get overconfident and walk into that right hand? Yeah, he could, but I think he's going to be prepared for that. And I think Topuria is going to come out. He's going to strike really technically. And I don't think Josh Emmett has very good wrestling, but he doesn't really use it. And also, I don't think he's going to try to take down a guy like Topuria who has amazing BJJ and amazing submission skills. So I think Josh Emmett's going to be trying to land that big bomb on the feet. I think Topuria is going to be pumping the jab, kicking the calf of Josh Emmett, kicking the body of Josh Emmett, taking the blueprint from Yair Rodrigues. And I think this is going to be a close fight, but then I think it's going to slowly start to pull away from Josh Emmett. I think Topuria is going to be fighting really technical. And then I think in the third round, Ilia Topuria catches him with a big punch, maybe a right hand, hurts Josh Emmett badly. Josh Emmett starts looking for a desperation takedown, and I'm going Ilia Topuria via third round guillotine to cement himself as a potential next title challenger for the winner of Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodrigues. I just don't think Josh Emmett can get it done. I think he's getting up there in age. He's slowing down. I think arguably he should be on a three-fight losing streak. I know the Dan Ige fight was super close, but bare minimum he should be on a 2-fight losing streak. Even though he's fighting elite competition, I just think Topuria is one of these contenders I've believed in for a while, long before he was even in the top 15. And I just think this is his time to shine. He's in the main event on ABC. He's 26 years old, 12 years younger than Josh Emmett, has a speed advantage, and all he has to do is not walk into that massive right hand of Josh Emmett, and he can win this fight, even if he isn't able to find the finish. He can win a decision. I think he can outstrike him to a decision. I don't think Josh Emmett will ever mix in the offensive grappling, and I think even if he did, Topuria would sweep him and find a submission. But I think ultimately, Topuria strikes with him, finds a big shot, and then finds a guillotine as Josh Emmett is looking for a desperation takedown because he's hurt badly. I don't think Topuria is going to try to grapple early, especially because Josh Emmett has good defensive wrestling and is so big as well. I think he'll be able to defend those takedowns against Topuria if he was to shoot early. But I think Topuria will be chopping those legs early, beating up that body early, using hooks to the body. Topuria likes to rip the body. And I think eventually he'll find that big shot. I think Josh Emmett will be moving well, land some shots of his own. But I think ultimately Topuria catches him in that third round and finds a guillotine on a hurt Josh Emmett. Again, I'll be doing a full breakdown and prediction video on this main event. I'll link it down in the description as soon as it's done. Let me know what you guys think of all these predictions. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.